Ladies and gentlemen, you say you want a revolution? Well, let me know. I'll get right on that for you. Let's do a show of hands. Show of hands, how many of you out there are thrilled by the state of Christianity in the world today? When you look at American Christianity in 2022, is your thought, wow, this is exactly what Jesus would have wanted? Take Acts. Read the book of Acts. Why don't you? Educate yourself, all right? It's been a big influence on the world today, all right? It's like the sequel to the Gospels. We've all seen The Passion of the Christ, and it tells the story of the beginning of the movement that Jesus started. One might say a Jesus movement. That first Jesus movement you can see in the show The Chosen. It's actually a pretty well-made show. I've been a bit of an advocate for it. So check it out. There was another Jesus movement, if you will, if I can keep saying the word movement. And a lot of what we see of Christianity today is thanks to that movement in the late 60s and early 70s. To go back to my initial question, I imagine many of you would say that there's very little similarity between what we have today with Christian music, Christian movies, the marketing, industrialized Christianity, the mega churches, the Hillsong Unite! Hillsong Unite! And the description of the early church found in the book of Acts. You turn on his radio.
Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson.
His radio 89.3.
With love
From Jesus.
For my broader audience,
K-Love.
you will hear the same exact music constantly playing. It's almost as bad as Christian movies, which I have voiced several opinions about. Right? Correct. That is correct. If you don't believe me, ask your parents. Just take my word for it.
Leave your parents alone.
They don't want you to ask them anything. All of that comes from, like all the modern day Christianity, all the American version of Christianity comes from a revolution that happened apparently after I read a bit about this on Wikipedia called the Jesus movement in the late 60s, early 70s, kind of around the time that the hippie movement and kind of adjacent to the hippie movement. There's a lot of like communes that came out of that. Culture was primed for this type of like new religious movement, and people were searching for something to be a part of. And there were all these new kind of socialistic, communistic, religious ideas being presented and probably influenced a bit by LSD. I think that there was a lot of good intentions with many where people were looking exactly as we did at the beginning at Acts and looking at Christianity in America, just kind of the 1950s, 60s style of Christianity, the separatist sort of movement.
We don't believe in movies, rock and roll, any fun, no instruments, nothing.
And so the response to that, much like the countercultural response to just the culture in general, was the countercultural response within Christianity, which was to kind of have its own little hippie movement. This is all my observation, having never experienced that. There is now a movie called The Jesus Revolution. So I got this email from the Jesus Revolution movie. They're letting me know that there's like this featurette that I could watch, and that's what I'm gonna watch. I don't think there's a trailer yet, but it's in theaters, February 2023, so it's coming up. This is from the Erwin Brothers, the people who made that big old deal with Lionsgate that they're gonna change the Christian movie industry.
It's a new day for faith film.
Probably similar to the way that the Jesus movement changed Christianity as a whole and made it possible for them to do their thing. So let's watch it. I have my thoughts about the Erwin Brothers because, and I'll just, you know what? I'll say it right now. I'll say it right now. With every movie that I've seen them make, they make the most glossy, pure, romanticized version of the stories that they're telling. So when they tell the story of the Christian music industry, it's what you would read on Wikipedia, minus the controversies section of Wikipedia. My predictions of this movie is that they will do the same thing. I'm sure that they won't talk about the cults and the abusers, the faith healers, the shysters that may have made their way into the movement, or the negative ramifications that have resulted from the movement. I would actually be thrilled if they actually explored some of the negativity of the movement and the struggles of people trying to save it. I imagine the closest thing to like a questionable content or spiritual struggle that they'll implement is the fact that they have a man by the name of Lonnie Frisbee as one of the main characters, and he did struggle a lot with like hippie type things like partying and drug use and sexuality while also being a preacher, and eventually tragically died of AIDS in 1993. So they'll have to address that at least. That'll probably be what I imagine is the conflict in the movie, but to what extent they actually talk about it, probably as little as possible. Obviously, they've kind of carved out a niche for themselves that they are the guys who make stories that make cultural, industrialized Christianity look good. We all came from this, and that's all a good thing. That's my prediction. But let's watch this featurette and see, because I'm actually legitimately interested in this movie because I think it's an interesting time. It's an interesting movement about something that not a lot of people are going to make movies about. You're not going to see Steven Spielberg making a movie about this stuff. Let's just see the featurette and see what's going on here.
It's a story of finding yourself, finding your way, finding faith. I just think it's going to be so uplifting.
There's comedy, there's tenderness, there's complexity with all of the characters.
Jesus.
The production value is incredible. It feels like we've just been dropped into a moment in history.
Audiences are going to get a strong message of love and hope.
I hope people feel tearful and joyful all at the same time, and maybe inspired to rediscover their own faith.
Kelsey Grammer, heart of the Jesus Revolution. I think we're going to be educated a bit right now watching this trailer. Though I don't love the stroke on this logo. It feels like they didn't have the actual logo, so they had to take a JPEG, and it was on black, and they had to do like a Luma key to put it in this trailer. Isn't that weird?
Every other movie that we've made along the way, Woodlawn, I can only imagine, I still believe, American Underdog, it's all been leading to this.
Every movie that we've made has really just been kind of a side project because we've all been trying to get this movie made.
I remember discovering the Jesus Revolution Time magazine cover story, and it was like unearthing this gem. Come to find out, Greg was a teenager at the very origin of the Jesus movement in Southern California.
The Jesus movement was an awakening.
His voice brings back, like it triggers something in my mind, not in a negative way. When I was like a teenager, 13, 14 years old, I remember cleaning the basement every week, and this guy was on at like 5 o'clock in the morning on the radio, and I would listen to him. I know his voice. I don't know his face very well, so it's kind of funny to see his voice coming out of this man's face.
Not only was it the last great American awakening, I think it may have
they're all
been
wearing
the
masks.
most significant of all.
What a bunch of sellouts.
Beautiful fusion of Greg's coming of age story, this hippie street preacher Lonnie Frisbee.
See, now this is one thing that I don't love about this, because I know that they cast Jesus from The Chosen to be this hippie preacher type figure in this movement. One of the things that I love about The Chosen is that the Jesus in The Chosen isn't kind of your typical hippie Jesus. And so to kind of take the Jesus actor from The Chosen and then to make him a hippie at this point, having not seen the movie, of course, I don't know, just rubs me the wrong way a little bit.
I think so many of us that were drawn into the hippie movement really were searching for something more.
It's very interesting, and this is one of the things that I have had issues with the Erwin Brothers in the past, and so I have a hard time kind of trusting their take on history just based on what they've done with telling historical events. The way Woodlawn presents the events in its story is it like takes the civil rights movement and kind of hijacks it or piggybacks off of it and makes it about something else. Like it shifts focus onto Christianity and like this Christian pure flick style Christian persecution complex that wasn't even part of the actual story or the book. I'll be interested to see what they change for this movie. But that being said, this is true. There was a Jesus movement that had a significant impact on the way that Christianity is practiced in the United States and Western culture in general. And the ramifications of that have rippled throughout religion to this very day. The question, obviously, from what I've said already in this video is, was it good?
Greg Laurie, at the time, is a lost soul. He's looking for truth, and he finds it in all the wrong places and in one right place.
Have you decided?
I don't know.
You want to decide right now?
Erwin Brothers, I'll always remember when they were going on tour promoting Woodlawn, and they kept talking about this is going to be the biggest Christian blockbuster ever imaginable. That kind of flipped a switch in my mind to watch their movies and see all of the like little things that they do to make their movies marketable. And that's not bad, like every movie does that, but it just feels weird. Why did you cast this person? Are they perfect for the role? Maybe. Are they kind of so hot right now? Oh yeah, that's it. It's a little bit funny to me.
One of the things that excited me most about the script was the theme. The theme is loving the other, I think that's what our world needs. I think our world really needs to heal.
If they leave the theater feeling encouraged and inspired, then we've done our job.
Our country and the world is prime for another revival.
I am praying that this movie will bring hope to a generation.
This story changed our nation and in many ways changed the world.
Why can't the next Jesus Revolution begin right now?
Know that if God can heal me, He can heal anyone. What would it take for you to be desperate?
Seems the movement's everywhere. It's spreading like wildfire. Let's see what God has in mind.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Jesus Revolution. It seems interesting, but man, does it seem orange. Seems really orange. They're talking about, oh, what if we could have this again? It can't be this again. If I'm gonna preach, I'm gonna preach again, ladies and gentlemen. The thing that is the Jesus Revolution of the 60s has become what they were fighting against. Just different. Like if I look around mainstream American Christianity, the church doesn't look like it looked in 1969. And the things that need to change, the big problems with American Christianity or the church as a whole, aren't the same problems. What it is now is not a bunch of separatists. That's not the problem. Not that there aren't legalists and people who lack grace and all that kind of stuff. Of course, that kind of thing will always be in Christianity, but the prevailing belief system, like there's no danger like the danger of walking into this uptight pious church with long hair and a beard like there was back then. Mainstream Christianity is not one of uptightness and offended by wearing jeans and long hair. The problem now is that it's become a brand.
Good evening and welcome to the K-Love Fan Awards.
We are so excited to be here tonight.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm just like...
How many books have you sold now?
I think my wife bought 3.
This movie, this movement, we just signed up to Lionsgate, and we're gonna have a movement all over the screen in the name of Jesus. Encapsulates that. All of that is the problem. The movement that happens today, the Jesus Revolution that would happen today, would be a revolution against this, where people stop looking to these mega churches, emotional worship movements. They stop looking to their government and their president to be their pastor. Instead of this shallow pandering, hey fellow kids, come to our church because we've got the Christian version of blank. We're cool Christians now. I don't want all of this. I want a movie that actually explores the real questions in life. Give me that. Make a movie that's deep and challenging and maybe a little offensive, but not offensive to the people in the 50s who Frisbee was offending, but offensive to you. Challenge the idea that Hillsong Unite is good music, not shallow and worshipful of this history that you're not going to go back to because the world isn't this way anymore. All we have is vapid bullshit everywhere we look. All entertainment is so worthless. It's so stupid. And Christians latch onto it. How can we make more TikTok videos just like what's popular with the kids these days? F*** that. Christianity has something that they don't have. Stop trying to be them. This all coming from a guy who just makes YouTube videos and copies everybody else. So what do I know? All I'm saying is this ain't it. Hello, editing Kevin here. I was just thinking as I was editing, because I know I just went on kind of a bit of a rant about modern day Christianity and whatnot. But I did want to say that I have not seen this movie. So this movie could be fantastic. It could be everything that I'm asking for in a Christian movie. I would love it if that was the case. I know John Gunn is involved. He's the director of Case for Christ and other movies that I've dared to say that I liked. This is probably one of the first only mainstream Christian movie I've seen that has one of the main characters be somebody who in their real life was openly gay. So that's new. Not that I care all that much about that. I'm not like, oh, look, it's the first trans person and all these first person to do this, whatever. But it does represent the idea that they're actually taking some risks and stuff in making this movie, especially among Christians. So this could be amazing. This could be applicable. This could be something that really asks some questions that are relevant to the world today. So I don't mean to act like that's not the case. I'm just cynical. and speculative. All of this is a lot of speculation on my part. Of course, that's what a trailer reaction is. I've seen as much as you've seen, and I hope that I get to come back on here after the movie comes out and I review it. I do my initial review and I say, you know what? Best Christian movie I've ever seen. That's my hope and my dream, and we'll all see, won't we? All right, back to old Kevin. Thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry, I got a little preachy on this episode. You know what? I'm not sorry. You guys get what you get. If you want to like and subscribe and whatnot, or if you want to give to my Patreon or support the show, you may do so. Hit that like button, hit the bell button so you get notified, and I will talk to you guys next time.